Alright, before we begin, the show I'm about to talk about is made by Toei. So, Toei, I'm familiar with the game. Please, man, I love your work. I'm a big fan. I love Dragon Ball. I love Yu-Gi-Oh! I love One Piece, kind of, even though I know nothing about it. Look, man, please don't strike me. Okay, let's stop. Over the past few months, I've watched way too many shows and gained way too many hyperfixations. Like a stupid amount. Something I rarely ever did before this year, but hey man, I got nothing better to do, so this is my life now. One show, or I guess more specifically anime, I happened to stumble upon, was Girls Band Cry, a fully original CG music drama anime. Safe to say, this show quickly caught my interest, and throughout watching it there was one thing in particular that stuck with me the most. It wasn't the impeccable music or the way the 2D backgrounds blended perfectly in with the show's CG models, most of the time at least, although both deserve a high amount of praise. No, it was actually the main character, neeeedddd, and how I feel like she heavily stands out compared to other popular music anime protagonists. Not just because of her as a character, but I also believe the journey she goes on throughout the show is incredibly interesting and unique. On top of that, I've never really done an analysis on a singular character before. Usually it's on the series as a whole, or multiple series, not one character from that series. I feel like I could push myself more with this script, so here we are. This is my video on why I think neeeedddd from Girls Band Cry works so well. Above everything, the core of Nina's character comes down to rebellion. In every word she speaks, every action she takes, the entire show is about Nina taking a stance and carving her own path, regardless of how people perceive her. When Nina is getting upset or just in general emotional, these red and black sparks will fly off her, almost like an aura. What I want to note here is the colours, red and black. Red and black are commonly used to express rebellion and defiance. E.g. with Persona 5, where the main theme of that game is all about rebellion. And I think it's an interesting colour choice for her. In fact, red and black is all over Girls Band Cry, whether it be the marketing or in the very first outfit we see Nina sport. It's also worth noting that Toganashi Tagiri, Nina's band, of which, by the way, I am so sorry if I pronounced that wrong, is a rock band. Guess what rock is associated with? I'm sure you can probably figure it out by now. Nina is essentially rebellion and revolution personified. The entire reason she comes to Kawasaki is because she was rebelling against her family, the people, and the school that wronged her. And in Kawasaki, she finds a new family in the form of her band. She finds Momika, who she looks up to and admires, but Momika is scared of Nina turning out like how she did, as well as Toganashi Tagiri ending up like Diamond Dust when faced with the fear of disbanding. It's also worth noting Void, Nina's favourite Diamond Dust song that is constantly brought up throughout the anime. Void's lyrics are very interesting as it's a song about not knowing how to move forward. Nina's rebellious, but she's also a teenager with little idea of how to make her way in the world. I think Void, even though it wasn't written by Nina, is a good way of showing her thoughts at the beginning of the show. One of the main lyrics in Void translates to "the answers tend to be superficial cliches," and I think that's a neat line because it represents exactly what Nina is defying. A lot of the answers she's given as a way to move forward past her injustices, such as the situation with her school, which trust me I'll speak on that in a bit, are only temporary or fake solutions. She could have definitely apologized and the situation would have been wrapped up, but it wouldn't align with her ideals, nor would it be fair to her considering what she went through. Another section I want to mention is, whether my fingers tremble or not, there's no right answer, there's no losing, I've been me all my life, that's all there is. And again, I like this because it's a genuine act of both Momika and Nina fighting, or more specifically rebelling, for their freedom. There is no right or wrong answer on how they chose to move forward past their injustices, but what matters is it's how they do it, what they want. Even though the song ends on a somewhat depressing note, no matter how much they resist there's no tomorrow, implying that no matter how hard they run towards that freedom they strive for, they won't be able to truly obtain it, I do think the line, "I've been me all my life, that's all there is there as somewhat as kind of a hope that even if neither Nina or Momika can reach that tomorrow they desire, they will continue to be who they are till the very end, regardless of what people wish for them to actually be or do. With Nina, that wish is just for her to be a good student and apologize. With Momika, that wish is for her to just go along with what the rest of Diamond Dust agreed on, even if it doesn't align with Momika's views on what the band should be. Nina, in general, has a lot of similarities to Momika. Momika even says that Nina reminds her of herself, except the difference between the two is that Nina is far more aggressive. Going back to something I said earlier, Nina is rebellious, but not in the she knows what she's doing way, and more so in the she's a teenager who acts on impulse and struggles with controlling her emotions way. A lot of the band's issues and fights are in general caused by Nina being an indescribable little shithead. When I think of iconic all-girl rock band anime protagonists, two characters come to mind for me. Torigoto / Bochi from Bochi the Rock, and Yui Hirasawa from K-On! While both characters have their own set of flaws, and as a result consequences that occur due to those flaws, they tend to be far more personal issues that their respective groups don't take much issue with, and so it, more often than not, doesn't cause much conflict from within. Also, in Yui's case, her main flaw of being an airhead is mostly never actually expanded upon, nor does she progress much from it, which is fine. The show is a slice-of-life comedy, more comedy-centric than Bochi, as a matter of fact. While it does have important character moments and emotional scenes, Yui's stupidness is not something she's meant to progress from. However, because both her flaws and Bochi's flaws don't really cause much conflict from within their group, nor are there issues honestly that relate to band/music at all, that's why I think Nina is so vividly interesting, because you're taking a character who's impulsive, struggles with keeping her emotions contained, and is willing to fight anyone and everyone, even her own band members, in a genre of anime which is pretty heavily dominated by two series where the protagonists just are nothing like them. Nina, just even really by existing, adds a major breath of fresh air. I do think it's highly important to show that bands, or really groups in general, do usually fight. Not necessarily often, but a good amount. And to have the main character be the one who causes a decent chunk of those arguments is a really great idea and is genuinely well executed too, thanks to Nina's fighting personality. However, I believe with that out of the way, it's finally time to discuss the massive elephant in the room, the school incident. The school incident is being given its own section here, as I think it's of that major importance. This is the thing that sets everything into motion. It plus Diamond Dust's song Void is what gives Nina the drive to leave her school and home and move to Kawasaki. This entire situation is constantly brought up throughout the show, and is teased relentlessly by giving the viewers small pieces of information about what happened throughout the first season. It shows Nina's personality perfectly, how she was inspired by Momoka's music and attempts to deconstruct the issues with the school system, as well as showcase the damage that can be done when people stay silent regarding injustices, like Nina's family and Hina did. But before I can really dive in fully, I need to first of all explain what exactly this situation is, so here's my quick summary. A few months before the events of the show take place, Nina notices that a girl at her school is being bullied, and attempts to step in and help her, despite Hina's warnings, who, trust me, I'll discuss in a bit. Hina ends up being right though, and the situation changes as the victim, despite what she actually wants, is forced to join the bullies and begins to bully Nina instead. Nina tries to stand up for herself, but what results is the school ignoring everything that occurred and forcing Nina to sign a letter of apology, which she refuses. I've already discussed parts of Void earlier, and how it's a showcase of Nina's thoughts at the beginning of the show, even if it wasn't actually written by Nina. Do you know what was written by Nina though? I was going to make a bit here where I called the song Emptiness and Catharsis as a way to transition to this part, then I realized Catharsis is not a thing that exists really, so yeah. Emptiness and Catharsis is a song written entirely by Nina during episode 10, one of the most crucial episodes in terms of Nina's development, if not the most crucial as it wraps up the family side of this situation. Nina is finally able to confront her parents, but mainly her dad. There's a couple important lyrics during this song that I want to cover during this part of the video. The first part of the song that stood out to me was this particular verse. To me, this song, similar to Void, is a representation of how Nina feels regarding this entire controversy, especially with the next part, which I'll talk about after. The irrational irritation is most likely directed at the school and how long it's taken for anything to occur, and although yes, it technically is rational, irrational is probably being used here to portray how insanely impatient and annoyed she's become. I also think it's a similar thing with the repetition of unforgivable, with the thing that's unforgivable being that she can't forgive the school or anyone who didn't take her side when she stood up for herself, but neglecting how she felt and trying to brush the entire situation off, letting the people who were actually guilty off with what was essentially a slap on the wrist. Intriguingly though, I also want to note that this verse in particular could also be used to sum up present Nina's issues with Toganashi Tagiri and Diamond Dust, although not necessarily relevant to the school situation. Something commonly done in the show, particularly in episode 8, is how it associates bands and survival. Momoka constantly repeats how Diamond Dust did what they had to do to survive, and it's a similar case with every band, not just Diamond Dust. You can infer that's what Nina is talking about when she says stuff like, "I don't want to die, I live life hard," and I want it, my soul screams," with the soul part quite literally referring to the soul of the band, and how she doesn't want to give that up. The second half of the verse, particularly the lines "unforgivable, unforgivable, it's so pathetic," and everything, it's all worse, could be in direct reference to Diamond Dust too, with how she believes everything they do now is inferior compared to what they did when Momoka was with them, and how she can't forgive the sacrifice they made in order to survive. My favourite line in this song, however, is immediately after this verse, which is, "Telling someone to be obedient is a nasty thing to do." And that's confirmed to be directly associated with the school stuff, as during the music video for it, there's a flashback to past Nina in school. Something Nina is constantly told during the entire situation is to let it go and move on. Hina repeatedly warns her to not get involved, and even the school asks her to brush it off, and for both sides, which means including Nina, who is the victim, to write letters of apology. Everyone around her, even her family, asks her to be obedient, even though doing that will probably just mean the bullying will continue. I think this is an excellent representation of how, unfortunately, schools fucking suck. I'm not saying that in the same way a 5-year-old hates going to school or thinks it's boring or that school should just stop existing forever. I think obviously school is essential, and in a lot of ways it's really good, but I've dealt with so many situations where bullying or some straight up crimes are obviously happening and the school does absolutely nothing to prevent any of it, even when they say they will. Yeah, by the way, that includes the crimes. It demonstrates an insane lack of care or proper supervision, and I really genuinely believe Girls Band Cry handles this perfectly in showing that a lot of schools, whether it be in Japan or be in the UK, need a massive restructuring in how they handle discipline, because if you tell them detention isn't enough, they'll probably look at you like you're fucking crazy. However, the people who accomplish the school's behaviour and defend it are far from innocent either, and one of those examples is Hina, who I can finally talk about. Although, by the way, whoever came up with her name seriously lacked originality. Like, okay, I get why her name is similar to Nina's, but like, come on man, Hina? Is that the best you could come up with? Is Season 2 gonna introduce Tina? And you can't forget Dina, Tina's evil twin. But okay, seriously, jokes aside, let's talk about Hina a bit. Hina is the complete opposite to Nina. She is Nina's narrative foil. Everything Hina is, Nina isn't. Everything Nina is, Hina isn't. Where Nina is impatient, out of control, and super emotional, Hina is patient, in control, and knows how to keep her emotions in check. While Hina is okay with sitting on the sidelines and let everything play out, regardless of the outcome, Nina is the type to step in and do what she believes is right, even if she's not exactly good at thinking of how to handle it. And I think these differences in who they are come through the most in their vocal performances. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is that the reason Hina plays so much importance is because following Nina's situation with the school, Hina becomes the new lead singer of Diamond Dust, replacing Momoko after she left the band. And here I am once again going to bring up Void, but more specifically Hina's version, which is also known as Eternal Flame. Hina's version of the song kinda sucks. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like this version, but that's my personal taste. The instrumental is really good, but the vocals, particularly when compared to Nina's version, and probably Momoko's version, although we don't actually have a full version of Momoko's Void at the time of writing this, are seriously lacking in emotion. It feels very corporate and bland, and I believe that's actually intentional. As I said, Hina and Nina are direct opposites to each other. It's honestly insane that these two were even friends at one point. However, Nina's inability to keep her emotions in check is actually an advantage when it comes to music, as it makes her singing have a distinct passion to it that Hina simply doesn't reach. Likely because Hina is a person who takes what she's given and doesn't ask for more or less, whereas Nina is someone who puts her all into everything and won't settle down until she's satisfied with the outcome. I think it's also worth noting the environments of which both versions are sung in, and how Nina and Hina individually treat the song. To start with Nina, she's singing her version of the song in a random street. It is a desperate attempt to keep Momoko in Kawasaki, and whenever she brings it up, it's to mention how the song quite literally changed her life. It showed her that she didn't have to give in to what was happening around and to her. It changed her perspective on life completely, and she admires the song because of it. On the flip side, whenever Hina is shown singing the song, it is during a live idol concert, a complete contrast to when Nina sings it, and it becomes kind of Diamond Dust's staple song. Even though the very idea of current Diamond Dust, even just singing the song, goes against the entire point of the lyrics, that point being that even if tomorrow seems like it'll never come, you should be you until the very end, which is exactly what Diamond Dust didn't do. Now, I'm aware that in universe this song was probably made before the idol stuff occurred, although it's not really made clear, but I do think it's very likely the lyrics still hold up with Momoko's and even Nina's thoughts. Now, keep in mind, I'm not trying to argue that Hina never cared or admired Diamond Dust, or that she's a bad singer, because she definitely did admire Diamond Dust, and she's not a bad singer. Both Hina and Nina obviously admire Diamond Dust a lot, but their admiration clearly took them in different directions. Another example of accomplices also being guilty is Nina's very own family, again, particularly her dad. There's one moment I want to focus on, which is the scene in episode 10 where her dad takes her to her old high school. While not entirely relevant to the point I'm going to make, I do want to mention I really love the moment where they're actually going there, because in each shot there's a gap between them, which signifies the hole left in their relationship because of the entire situation. Also, something I actually kind of embarrassingly just noticed while writing this script is that in each shot during this moment they never once make eye contact, but Nina does make eye contact with one person, in quotation marks, which is herself, likely meant to represent how she still sees eye to eye with her past but can't bring herself to do the same with her dad. When they make it to the school, Nina's dad attempts to defend her this time instead of standing by, but the issue is it's far too late for him to do that and Nina gets frustrated, A big issue with people who just let things play out instead of stepping in is they tend to realize far too late that what they did was wrong and they could have changed something. And some of them try to overcorrect that mistake instead of just apologizing and owning up to their past. Nina's dad attempted to do the right thing, but by then, he had missed his chance, the damage had already been done. Something I love about this part of the show is it shows three outcomes: those who simply stand by and let things play out via Hina, those who stand by but then realize what they did was wrong once it's too late via Nina's dad, and finally, the victims who desire true, genuine justice, and not some false solution for what they were put through via Nina. And I think this also really reflects in how they end up. Hina doesn't involve herself, so she faces little life-changing consequences, although she does end up losing Nina as a friend. Nina's dad does involve himself, because Nina is involved, so obviously her parents need to be, and as a result of his failures, he loses his daughter. And Nina, after everything, ends up going her own path, moving away from those who failed her previously. The final thing I want to cover in this video is Wrong World, which is the opening song heard in every episode, and also has quite a few interesting lyrics that I really want to speak about. Throughout this video, I've brought up quite a bit how, to me, Nina above all embodies rebellion, in how she acts and did everything she does throughout the story, even down to her music genre of choice, and Wrong World perfectly reflects Nina's aspirations and thoughts on the world, particularly in these verses. Despite all the hardship Nina has been put through time and time again, in the end, she continues to keep walking, to keep being herself in a world where, as the song describes it, nothing changes. She's put down by people who don't really understand her, yet she has no choice but to keep moving even if it seems like a stupid idea. Giving up would be exactly what her parents want, what the school wants, what everyone who told her to give up and let the bullying happen wants. Well, the entire point of the final arc in Season 1 is that Hina wants to win. She wants Nina to tell her she was right, but at the same time, she also doesn't want to stop messing with Nina. The confrontation with Hina and the battle between Takanashi Tagiri and Diamond Dust is one final test of Nina's character, and in the end, she continues to stick to what she's been known for the entire series, continuing to prove that she wasn't wrong for the decisions she made all that time ago. That's what, to me, interests me about Nina the most. Not only is she this kind of breath of fresh air from other all-girl rock band anime protagonists, but she's also this character who is very flawed in how she approaches things. A lot of the arguments that are started are because of Nina being so insistent on her views and what she wants. She's someone who only really wants to do the right thing, but is trapped in a world where you'll be punished for doing that, where the only option is that you keep moving forward and to ignore the wants of the people who try to repress and neglect you, just because they can't understand you. Nina Isari is such an incredible protag from what is a brilliant show crafted with so much passion and love, not just put into the story or visuals, but the songs as well. I rewatched the show because it finally got localized and put on Crunchyroll recently. I was planning to make a video on Nina anyways before then, which would have required me to rewatch regardless, but I can't lie, on top of having an official translation, this rewatch really just made me appreciate the show more and notice a lot more about it. It really is one of the shows that gets better upon rewatch, and I'm glad to finally be covering it. Nina herself has quickly become one of my favourite characters of all time, and I hope this video at the very least does her a little bit of justice. With that said though, thank you for watching. I know this video and the last have been a little different for the channel, but like I said at the end of the last video, I really want to cover more media beyond just games, especially since I've been watching a ton of anime over the past year. I hope that's okay with you all. Next video will be video game focused though, ironically. Look dude, what do you want from me? With that said though, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.